Hello and welcome back to the GT Improvement course. Today we are going to be doing some practice with word problems and proportions. So we talked about proportion in the last video, and the key to knowing a word problem is a proportion is they're going to give you two groups of something, and then they'll be changing the amount of one of the groups, and you have to figure out how the other one changes. So let's do some practice problems. We're going to do 5 of these kind of easier ones here, and then we're going to do some more difficult ones. So we have our first problem is Jasper bought 12 postcards during 6 days of vacation. After 10 days of vacation, how many total postcards will Jasper have bought? Assume the relationship is directly proportional. So go ahead and on your own pause the video and see if you can figure out two groups and set up your proportion. Okay, so in this problem, our groups are postcards and days of vacation. So I'm going to go ahead and draw my lines, setting up my proportion. So my groups, like I said, are postcards. So I'm just going to do P for postcards and D for days. So I have 12 postcards for 6 days of vacation. And they're changing the amount of days. So days I have down here. So my 10 is going to go right here, and my X is going to go right here. So there's two ways we can solve this proportion. We can see if we can figure out the scale factor, which in this case we cannot see because I don't know what 6 is being multiplied to make 10. So in this case here, what you would want to do is just go ahead and do your cross multiplying. So it doesn't matter which one you start with. You could start with 6 times X, which is 6X. Equals 12 times 10, which is 120. To solve that, you would divide both sides by 6, and X equals 20. Now I want to point out another thing that you can do with proportions. You can see this is a fraction here. You can absolutely reduce individual fractions if you are able to. So if you can, I would go ahead and do it because smaller numbers are easier to work with. So this fraction, 12 over 6, we could divide 12 by 6, that would be 2. And 6 divided by 6, that would be 1. Okay? And then in this case, you could actually see the scale factor. In order to make 10, we're multiplying 1 by 10. So to scale factor, it would just be times 10 here. Sorry, that looks like a 2. So 2 times 10 is 20. So again, X would be 20. So two ways to solve. You don't have to reduce it, but it does make numbers easier to work with when they're smaller. Okay, so go ahead and look at the second problem here. Go ahead and pause your video and go ahead and see if you can set up your proportion. All right, so for this problem, our groups are money and attendees. So I'm going to set up my proportion. Doesn't matter which one I put on the top, I'm just going to put money there and attendees on the bottom. So $12 is 4 attendees, and the numbers that they changed are the amount of attendees, so that 5 is going to go right over here, and that's where my X is going to go. With this problem, you could definitely reduce this, so you could divide the top and bottom by 4. So 12 divided by 4 is 3, 4 divided by 4 is 1. And now you can easily see the scale factor. It would be times 5 and times 5. So 3 times 5, X is going to be 15. Now if you didn't reduce it, you could still figure this problem out with your cross multiplying. It would be 4 times X, which is 4X, equals 12 times 5, which is 60. Divide by 4 on both sides, and X equals 15. So it doesn't matter which way you do it, you're still going to get the same answer. Okay? All right, go ahead and do the third one. Let's go see if you can set that one up on your own. Okay, so for this one, our groups are quizzes and weeks. So I'm going to put quizzes here and weeks over here. All right, so this says 10 quizzes over the course of 2 weeks. How many weeks of school will Maggie have to attend before she will have taken a total of 15 quizzes? So that's the one that they changed. and my x is going to go here. And I'm going to go ahead and reduce this fraction. I could change this to 5/1. Okay, scale factor here. To make 15, we're multiplying by 3. 5 times 3 is 15. So to figure out x, we're just going to multiply 1 by 3, which is 3. And again, if you didn't do that, it would be 2 times 5, which is 30, equals 10 times x, which is 10x. Divide both sides by 10, and still get x is 3. So either way. All right, moving on to number 4. Go ahead and set that one up. Okay, so in this group, or in this problem, our groups are kilograms of dough and hours. So it says 12 kilograms of dough working for 3 hours. How much dough? So that's my x is going to go over here if he worked for 7 hours. And again, I can go ahead and reduce this fraction. This is going to be 4/1. Divide 12 by 3, that's 4. 3 divided by 3, that is 1. Okay, you can see the scale factor again. This is times 7. So this is going to be times 7. So x equals 28. Or you could do it the other way. It would be 3x equals 12 times 7, which is 84. And divide both sides by 3. If you would do the long division, you would get 28. Okay? All right, last one. Go ahead and pause your video and see if you can set that one up. All right, our groups are jam and days. So we have 30 liters of jam, and that takes 5 days. And they are trying to change the liters of jam. They changed that to 42. And days is what we're trying to figure out. Okay, I can reduce this. Divide 30 by 5, that is 6. 5 divided by 5, that is 1. Okay, now I can see the scale factor. In order to make 42, you would be multiplying by 7. So multiply 1 by 7, x is going to be 7. All right, so I hope that was helpful for you. Let's do some more difficult problems. All right. Our first problem is going to be number 21. Go ahead and pause your video and read through 21 and see if you can set up your proportion. Now be careful with this one because it says minutes and toys, and then it asks how many hours it will take. Okay, so be careful with your setup on this one. All right, so for this problem, it says it takes 2.5 minutes to make 6 toys. So with this problem, my groups are minutes and toys. So I'm going to just set up my proportion right over here. Minutes and toys. Minutes and toys. Now, the question asks how many hours it's going to take to make 348 toys. You cannot change the groups. If this is minutes, this is not allowed to be hours. It has to be minutes and minutes. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna figure out how many minutes it takes to get 348 toys, but you're gonna have to then convert that answer into hours, okay? So let's go ahead and set up our proportion here. It takes 2.5 minutes. I'm gonna go ahead and change that fraction to a decimal to make 6 toys. And they wanna know how many hours, so that's gonna be my minutes, will it take to make 348 toys. Okay, now I can't easily see the scale factor on this problem, so what I'm gonna do is just cross multiply, okay? So I'm gonna do 6 times x, so that is 6x, equals 2.5 times 348, that works out to 870, okay? All right, now to solve for x, we're going to divide both sides by 6. And when you do that math, you get x equals 145. Now, this represents the number of minutes that it takes to make those 348 toys. Our job now is to calculate how many hours this is. So to calculate how many hours, all I'm going to do is divide 145 by 60. So 145 divided by 60. Now, remember, use your answers to help you, okay? So if you look at the answers, we know that 3 out of the 4 answers start with 2, and then one of the answers starts with a 3. Okay, so you know when you're doing this division here, the first digit has to be either a 2 or a 3. So 60 can go into 145 2 times. Okay, 2 times 60, that is 120. And you're left with 5 minus 0 is 5, 4 minus 2 is 2. Okay, now if you notice, your answers are in the forms of fractions. So I would want my answer in this division to be a fraction. So how we're going to do that is once we have our whole number here, whatever's remaining right in here, that's going to become our numerator, and our denominator is going to be 60. Okay, so now I have a fraction. So if you're doing this division, remember you stop when you get the whole number, which in this case is 2. The remainder becomes the numerator, and the denominator is this number on the outside of the box. Okay, so it's going to take 2 hours and 25 minutes, but you don't see 25/60ths here, but we're going to have to reduce that fraction. So 25/60ths, both of those are divisible by 5, so that reduces to 5/12. So our answer is 2 and 5/12. Okay, so there's that problem. Okay, so just remember, if your groups have to be the same on the sides, okay, especially in terms of time. If it's minutes here, you can't put hours over here. All right, our last problem that we're going to do is this one right here, number 18. So go ahead and pause your video and see if you can set up and solve your proportion. All right, so for this problem, our groups are sugar and cookies. So it says a pound of sugar makes 36 cookies. How much sugar is needed for 4 dozen cookies? Okay, so we could set this up a couple ways. One way you could set it up is a pound of sugar gives you 36 cookies. How much sugar is needed for 4 dozen cookies? So the first thing that you might want to do is maybe change that 4 dozen to actual cookies, which would be 48 cookies. Okay, all right, can't see the scale factor here. There's no reducing of this fraction that I can do, so I'm just going to do my cross multiplying. So 36x equals 48. Now I'll have you notice that with this problem, 3 out of the 4 answers have fractions in them. So I would want to keep this problem as a fraction, keep my answer as a fraction. So 48/36, that is right there an improper fraction. And if you look, all your answers are in mixed numbers. So all you have to do with this problem is simply translate this improper fraction into a mixed number. So 36 goes into 48 one time. Okay, so already, if you're looking at your answers, you know that B and C are out because those both start with 2. It has to start with a 1. Okay, so 36 goes into 48 one time. You have 12 remaining, and denominator stays the same. Now you can take this fraction and reduce it. 12/36, both of those are divisible by 12. So your answer would be 1 and 1/3. Okay, so your answer would be delta. All right, I hope you got some good practice with proportions. There are quite a few proportions on the AFCT, so I would definitely feel confident with those. If you're still needing practice, I would say simply Google proportion word problems and get yourself some extra practice in, okay? But remember, when they give you two groups of something and they change one of the groups, that's a proportion, okay? All right, see you at the next video.